This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to your live safari. What a fantastic start. We're starting with spots. This is Shidulu, which means termite mound in Shangaan, and she's sitting on a Shidulu. So, what a great start we're off to. Get ready, everyone. It's that time of day for your live safari through the African bush. Welcome aboard from everybody here. Oh, she's looking at us. Isn't she beautiful? Her name is Shidulu, but we call her the Duchess of the West, who is fast moving into Djuma, and she's our new territorial female around here. My name is Lauren. I have BK on camera, and I am really happy but also really hot. It's slightly uncomfortable here in Djuma today. I imagine Shidulu is uncomfortable as well. It's 32 degrees Celsius. Can you believe it? Yes, so I don't think she's going to stay still for too long, but we will follow her as long as we can. So we're coming to you from 5 different locations and 6 different safari vehicles today. So I'm sure it's going to be an exciting ride for all. But you must talk to us. Send in all your comments and questions using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter or at FC on the YouTube channel. Someone's tired. At FC on the YouTube chat stream or on Twitch. But kids, you must talk to us as well. It's important. Please send in your questions, but you email them. The address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Now, we had Shidulu here this morning, so it's not a complete surprise that she's still here. It's far too hot for a cat, especially one that's covered in hair. So we're not too far away from Treehouse Dam. I'm hoping at some point she does get up and decide to have a drink. So good to see her. She's from the west of our reserve here in Djuma Game Reserve, but she's slowly pushing this way. Black Widow, she is absolutely stunning. She's beyond stunning. I'm not over the moon with her name though. Calling a leopard termite mound, I'm not sure. I think we could have called her a much more fantastic name, but our little nickname for her is the... Oh, she's very sleepy today. She must have been busy last night. She was actually very mobile last night, scent marking and making her way across the properties. So we knew she was going to be here today. So my afternoon is set. I'm going to sit here with the Duchess.
We've got a very nice picture there of an Impala. He was standing right in front of us. There we go, that's better. Good way to start our drive. My name is James Hendry. Hello. Nice to be with you today. And we have got Theodore Island style on the camera. I hope that you're going to talk to us during the course of this afternoon. I'm going to shift very slightly forward so that Theo can get a picture of another Impala. Use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. Otherwise, you can use the email address kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. A little bit further forward, just in here, we should get a view of those Impalas, which are standing now. Well, sort of. There we go. There we are. Of course, Shidulu would like to eat one of these, if she could get her teeth into it. But we're a long way from where Shidulu the leopard is, and our plan is to go off towards the western side of the reserve, see what's on offer there, try and find if we can pick up tracks maybe of the wild dog pack that we had 2 evenings ago. Oh no, yesterday evening actually. That'll be very special. These impala will be hoping fervently that they do not ever see another wild dog. And it's a nice hot day today, about 32 degrees Celsius, and as I always like to say, in this part of the world, winter kind of ends one day and summer starts the next day, and that's how it feels today. It feels like winter finished. Obviously it doesn't really happen like that, but that's what it feels like. And so at this time of the afternoon, it's very, very quiet. None of the birds are calling. They'll call a little bit later.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to andBeyond Prrivate Game Reserve. I'm Matt, behind the camera we've got Craig, and this afternoon we've managed to find those two lions that we were with this morning. The two of them haven't moved very far. In fact, I don't think they've moved at all between now and then. But you'll see now as Craig pans back to this lioness, getting a little bit of restless sleep, and I'm hoping that they move relatively soon. You'll see those ears twitching every so often. There are a couple of flies that are irritating these two quite a bit. And she had her head down, but so much so that she actually started snapping at these flies, just now. And you can see she'll put her head down, and then in no time it will be back up. He has taken to different tactics. He's actually flicking his tail at them. Might see, but yeah, it's still relatively hot this afternoon, so I can't imagine them to go anywhere anytime soon. But I think as it starts to cool down and the wind drops, she might look to hunt. I know James was with a couple of impala earlier. I can see some on the hillside on the left hand side, which if either of them spot them, maybe we'll be in for a little bit of action at some stage this afternoon, or that's at least what we're hoping for. So we'll stick around with them for a while. Let sleeping cats lie. But yeah, like I said earlier, that very sort of intermittent sleep with these flies that are Rosalind, depending on what lions catch to eat, if it was something like an impala, between the two of these lions, it's not going to last them very long, maybe a day or two. Something a little bit bigger, like a zebra or a wildebeest, every 2 to 3 days, I'd say. So every so often, and it also depends on how big the pride of lions is. Prides up in the parts of the Timbavati and the sands, big prides of lions will have to hunt quite regularly.
Our busy leopardess is indeed busy. She's off on this scorching hot day. She's on a mission. Now Shidulu here, I'm going to just follow her before we lose her through the thicket. Shidulu is 6 years old. So she's in her prime. She's a fantastic leopardess. It really is at that stage in her life to have the sort of biggest territory that she can. When a leopard is in their prime, their territory will be at its biggest, or its largest, should I say. And then sort of when they get a little bit older and maybe there's new dominant females in town, because she's just there, then it may get slightly smaller. I have a funny feeling Shidulu is hungry. We may have a hunt on our hand today, which would be very exciting. She's quite the huntress. Look at her tail. Her tail's twitching. She's on to something. Just gonna follow her. See how camouflaged she is? It's incredible. Okay, I'm going to do my very best and keep up with our Duchess of the West. Okay, everyone, I'm just going to do my very best here to catch up with Shidulu. Luckily, this is a nice and open block, so we've got plenty of sort of areas that we can give her space. Oh, hold on, BK. I don't quite know where I'm going here. I can see her over there, 12 o'clock. We've not lost her yet.
I have managed to find myself the web of a group of spiders. Now, because it's warmed up today, I'm wondering if this web is maybe active, because normally spiders, much like the insects, will not be very active during the colder months. Now, this is called a community nest spider, and if people don't like spiders, this is the kind of thing that gives them nightmares. So I'm just going to disturb it very slightly and see if there's any activity inside. In it live many, many spiders, and normally what happens is that in the summertime, when they're active, an insect will land on the web, they'll all come out, bite it to death, eat it and take it back inside, or just discard the husk of whatever it was that flew in here to the ground. But I don't see anything particularly terrifying coming out of that. So that is a community nest spider. And I wonder if you're going to be able to see this. Can you see this little web here, Theo? Can you see it? This little web is the tropical tent web spider, and they get huge. I mean, they get about that big, not the spiders, the webs. And this little guy is just at the bottom, and you won't be able to see him because he's only about 2 millimeters long. And the most... oh, sorry, one more thing. There's also the start of a bird's nest here. Can you see here, Theo? Yeah? So that's the start of probably a blue waxbill's nest. A little blue bird. So often you will find blue waxbills in these thorny trees, because what it does is it helps animals, or it helps them to protect themselves from predators such as snakes.
Welcome back, everybody, to andBeyond Phinda, where very little has changed here with these two lions. They are lying on what would make quite good nesting material for things like social weavers and village weavers and the likes that James was talking about in this long grass. But she has now found a really good spot to lie. As you can see, Craig zooming in on her face there, not even batting that ear anymore. Looks like those flies have given her a bit of a break. He too hasn't sort of swatted his tail anytime soon. But, like I said, it might be worth sticking around to see what they get up to. As things start to cool off this afternoon, I think they'll definitely move into a different area, perhaps down below where we saw all of those zebra and impala this morning. Perhaps they have a little bit, or she at least has a little bit more luck in the hunting department. But you can have a look how well he blends in there behind that long grass. Sticks out a little, what patches of him do stick out in the sun, stick out like a sore thumb at the back there, and that big old mane of his. And her, particularly the way she's lying, you can see that white belly of theirs, which often, is something that we could spot from a distance as they lie on a hillside or whatever the case may be.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is awesome having you with us at Tswalu Kalahari Reserve this afternoon. Old David on camera here, my man, doing a killer job. And my name's Dylan. It is wonderful having you with us. This afternoon, the entire day, we are doing a stakeout at this beautiful little dam overlooking the mountains. I'm hoping, crossing fingers, maybe we get some lion activity, general game, there should be some good birding around. So yeah, I think it'll just be fun if we can stick this out. I'm not expecting anything, but you never know what rocks up in this kind of environment. And it's just beautiful to be outside. And please ask questions, whatever you want to know. Like I say, nothing financially related, please. But anything else. Anything to do with wildlife. And if we don't know the answer, I will phone a friend or ask the audience. We're going to have a lot of bird activity. It's still quite warm. We've got a lot of canaries, yellow canaries on the other side. So the very bright yellow ones are yellow canaries, and then the slightly duller ones are the females. And we've got scaly feathered finches as well. But I'll talk you through it as we're moving, what we've got going on here. We've got Namakwa doves there as well. Once we've settled in here nice and see what's going on, Phinda has asked what birds are calling. We've got scaly feathered finches calling, and we've got yellow canaries calling here. The yellow canaries are actually the ones that are calling the most over here at the moment. It's a very, very, very soft little trilling one, and we have an Namakwa dove calling in the background. Unfortunately, with this mic that I've got, it's not going to pick that ambient sound up, or probably very unlikely to. But the Namakwa dove is beautiful. It's a and then I won't even try and mimic the yellow canaries. They're a very soft warbling sound. And we've got some bulbuls, red-eyed bulbuls calling as well. Got sociable weavers calling. Got a chestnut-vented tit babbler calling. We've got wattled starlings calling. Yeah, so there's quite a bit of bird activity. That very bright blue one, that's a Cape glossy starling. And we were waiting this morning at that tree for a bird to come out. It wasn't a Cape glossy starling either, for those of you who saw it, just in case you were getting all excited there. But this bird is a hole nester. In other words, it nests in holes in trees. So not W-H-O-L-E, that too. But so in this environment, holes are actually quite are really hot property, because there's not. I mean, we're looking into kind of densely wooded area here, but there's actually relatively few compared to the number of trees. There's actually relatively few very large trees, or trees large enough to get holes in them to provide suitable nesting sites. So there's a huge amount of competition for nests, including, among other things, bees taking over holes.
You will not believe what just happened, everyone. My heart is thumping. You may be able to hear it. Shidulu just stalked our hyena cubs. 3 of them are outside of the den without an adult. Ribbons 2 and Corky's 1. And she just stalked them. I need to just slow my heart rate right down. She's hungry. She's looking for anything. She keeps walking, stopping, listening, smelling. I really think Shidulu might hunt tonight, which is actually great news. It means we'll have her, if she kills something large, we'll have her on the property for at least a few days. Oh no, okay, she's going into a tricky area now, and thank goodness she did not go for those hyena cubbies. She absolutely would if she could take a hyena cub. If there was an adult there, no, she would have been deterred, but otherwise she absolutely would. Perfect snack for a leopard, a hyena cub who cannot defend itself. Okay, she's right here. It's a nice open area where we can just watch her. You can see, if you look at her body, she's very muscular. She's in great shape, but you can see it's slightly saggy on the underbelly. And that happens once the leopardess gets much older and she starts to have litters. Shidulu is currently mother to Kara, who's her youngster, her daughter. She originally had 2. Oh, she's going to say Mark. You see, that is all scent marking, rubbing the sebaceous glands on her cheek that produce a sebum. She's also squirting out urine, which contains a marking fluid to mark her territory, and she was also scraping her claws. Okay, I'm going to do my very, very best to follow Shidulu here through the thicket.
Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to andBeyond and Ngala. We are here down in the Timbavati River, just as you can see, and you are with Eric today behind the steering wheel, and we've got Gert, who's behind the camera. And this afternoon we're out by this riverbed, close to this bank, and one of the reasons why we've come down over here is that there is a leopard carcass or an Impala carcass that we think a leopard has caught. And so we are very, very close towards a small little patch of water that these leopards have probably maybe gone off to have something to drink, and they could be coming back down here. So we're just sitting here patiently waiting for them to return, hopefully. We haven't seen anything yet, but hopefully there's a chance that they might come back. And it's in quite a nice area, so she's killed it probably sometime in the late hours of last night or early this morning, and she is dragged it straight in towards this thicket where it's nice and dense. They can't. The vultures can't see it. The other predators hopefully won't be able to see it, and so if we give it some time, hopefully we get to see a nice leopard feeding on the carcass today.
What we have got here is a tawny eagle. Now this tawny eagle alerted us to the presence of the wild dogs yesterday evening. And the tawny eagle is a scavenger, and so it would not surprise me if those dogs were around here and this tawny eagle was perhaps watching for when they next go hunting. You can just see, if you look carefully below its beak, you can see that there is a swelling on the chest. And that swelling on the chest is a full crop, fullish crop. A crop is where the bird kind of stores its food before it digests it. I think that's from the meal that it ate yesterday. There were 3 of them here yesterday, just the one now. So we're going to carefully check in the shade around here to make sure that there aren't a whole heap of wild dogs. Can't see anything just yet as I scan with my binoculars. Beautiful big brown eagle, and the only brown eagle that you'll find here at this time of the year, although on the 10th of August, which is what it is today, you may be lucky to see a Wahlberg's eagle coming in.
Welcome back to andBeyond Pin, everyone. We've repositioned, slightly to have a look at this male who had his head up for quite some time, but again now just found quite a comfy spot on this hillside. I'm not sure if you can see slightly further right of his face or his paws, and they're slightly obscured by that little bush. Might just reposition in a bit so you can see them, but they are huge. They're probably bigger than the size of my hands, and it's just incredible to think that something like that can bring down an adult buffalo or a giraffe or the likes. But as he lies, he looks somewhat like a domestic cat that you just want to go and scratch. Not that I'd advise that. She also hasn't moved an inch since we've been here, or since we've repositioned. She didn't even lift her head. But if you have a look at him twitching his ears, this might encourage him to lift his head up and get rid of those pesky flies, which also haven't left him this afternoon. Talking about tawny eagles with James this morning, Wahlberg's eagles, if we were lucky enough to see one, but we saw 3 battaliers flying overhead, and often quite a good indication sometimes that there is a potential predator down below. If something like a battalier sees a carcass from a dizzy height, they'll come and investigate, and they could and who knows, if it was them helping us this morning find these lions, lead us to something like them. Lynette, in the wild, male lions between about 10 and 12 years, and then females a little bit longer than that. Obviously, males have competition that they come across, and so this chap is actually on his own at the moment, but he is in a coalition of two, him and his brother. I'm not sure where his brother is at the moment, but they are quite comfy. The majority of what you can see, if we sort of give you a bigger picture here, is their territory. And until new males arrive from other areas that might give them a run for their money, they will be here for a good while. So yeah, for them, between about 10 and 12 years in the wild.
Those little birds. Oh yeah. So we've got some really, really good bird activity here. There's this one on the edge of the water. There's an acacia-pied barbet. Yeah, that one that's in the middle of the frame there now. And you've got yellow canaries. Beautiful. Look at that. And you've got yellow canaries behind him. And a red-eyed bulbul. Many of you will be familiar with black-eyed bulbuls in other areas and further south, Cape bulbuls. And then those little ones that have just come in are sociable weavers to the right of that, what do I call that bird? Acacia-pied barbet. And there is another bird, which is there's a yellow canaries and female yellow canaries, and it's, oh my word, and we got scaly-feathered finches in the middle of the frame now at the back, those little ones flitting in and out. So it just shows what a hive of activity is going on here. Do all birds have? Sorry, I didn't get that question. Cheetah Thomas asked, do all birds have something? Sorry, I really didn't get that. Oh, a crop. I don't think all birds have a crop. I'll have to check that up. Very, very good question. Because your crop is used for storing stuff, and it may be that some birds don't. I'll have to check that up for you. That's a very, very good question, that. So one of the things I like sitting about at waterholes like this, okay, today's it's a bad example because we're in the middle of winter, so it's quite mild. But even in the hottest times today, when traditionally, if you go to reserves across Africa, your guide will tell you, we'll go out early in the morning, late in the afternoon, because that's your best viewing time. But if you want to see killer birding, get to a little waterhole in the absolute heat of the day. And that is what's going to blow your mind in terms of bird activity, because that's when your water usage is highest, or requirements are highest. Dizzy has asked, are any of these a mystery bird? No, they are not the mystery bird, but well remembered, and thanks for asking. No, but it's definitely not. I'm hoping we're going to get that mystery bird tomorrow morning. But it's absolutely incredible just to see the sheer volume of birds coming in and out here now. And not necessarily high diversity. There's 4 or 5 different species over here. And you get scaly-feathered finches, yellow canaries, acacia-pied barbets, red-eyed bulbuls. There's namaquados cruising around here. So, okay, let's say around the waterhole now you probably get 11 or 12 different species. But just the numbers of them, there's a lot of activity in and out. Those are your bulbuls, and we're coming back over to the barbets. There's the barbets with a little yellow canary in the foreground. Those barbets are very striking birds, eh? I think we must just sit here and just be patient. I'm hoping for something slightly bigger to come down later as well. So it's great having you all with us again, anyone that's just joined us. And we're just doing some birding, David and myself. You all know David. We're just doing some cool birding along this edge of this pan over here. And it is a really beautiful afternoon out here. Sorry, I'm just trying to get shots of some interesting birds because we've got so much activity going on around us. And I'm hoping there's a shell duck. There were actually 2 shell ducks here earlier. I'm hoping that they may return. There's been some black-winged stilts around, which are wading birds that are sort of ephemeral in the area. They move in and out, so maybe they could even rock up.
Welcome back to all our TV viewers, to andBeyond Phinda. This male lion that you see in picture, I think was starting to wake up. There were a couple of francolins that were alarming off to our left-hand side, or something had surprised them, which made me think maybe his brother was looking for him. There's no real reason for him to look for this brother in picture, because he is with this lioness who's lying just out of frame at the moment. But what a sight that would be if his brother did come around the mountain. I wonder how he'd react. Well, there we go, a little bit of a head raise and a tail flick, a little bit of a stretch, but they're not really showing signs of starting to wake up. No real grooming, no real yawning as of yet. And I'm not 100% sure if they've eaten recently. She looked like she was well fed, just judging by her belly. It didn't look like she was visibly sort of hungry. He, on the other hand, I think could always eat. I'm not sure if you've ever seen a full male lion when their bellies are literally bursting at the seams, but even then they'll manage to find some space for something more. But I can't imagine, maybe, or not at least today, that they've eaten. Perhaps yesterday or even the day before was when they ate last. And the rest of the pride was actually seen in an area not too far away as the crow flies from where we are. I think about 3 days ago on a Ngala carcass, feeding on that. But something like that is not going to last the pride of lions very long, with so many mouths to feed. And I know this morning we mentioned a couple of youngsters. I was convinced it was this lioness that had the youngsters, but who knows? I could be wrong if she's now with this dominant male lion. It could be one of her siblings or one of the older lionesses in the pride, which we could potentially see a little bit later as it starts to cool down and everyone emerges from their sheltered hiding places, because it actually was quite a hot day here today on Phinda. We spoke this morning of certain things. Map check. Potentially, if defeated, a male lion could join up with other lions. Obviously, there's strength in numbers for them, and the bigger coalition the better their odds of taking over a pride of lions. So potentially, yes, you'll often find those nomadic males who will leave their pride or get kicked out of the pride by the dominant male, like this one that you see lying down at around about 2.5 years of age, and they will then set on off and sort of go off the grid for a while. And when they come into their prime, about 4 or 5 years old, that's when they'll look to take over a pride of lions with other lionesses in it. And obviously, if him and his brother, this male that you see lying here, is with his brother and one male lion comes, he probably won't stand a chance, but together with another, his odds will be better.
Yeah, so we're going to be sitting here quite, well, not a while, we're going to sit here the whole drive. So if you've got the patience, great. If you don't, you're also welcome not to join us. But I just enjoy doing these kind of things because, like I've said it before, you never, ever know what rocks up. This waterhole that we're sitting at is particularly well frequented by lions. And you can see we are literally sitting outside here on the ground just with a couple of branches around us. So I will, out of sheer necessity, sacrifice David if I have to. Of course, just to go get help. I mean, I wouldn't do it otherwise. And someone has to stay and operate the camera, let's face it. Someone's got to live to tell the story. Someone's got to get the footage. Now, on a serious note, but you can get lions arriving here. You can get buffalo. You can get plains game. I think we had last time we had Impala coming down. We had a slender mongoose. So these are all animals that are on the cards. And we can only keep our fingers crossed and see what comes out. But at the moment, the birding is just really, really, really good. But I'm hoping for something like one of the little waders to come in. Veronica has asked a nice question there. Why don't we see any birds bathing? If we sit long enough, you will. But it actually, believe it or not, is slowly starting to cool down now. So the chance of seeing them actually bathing now is a little bit less than it would have been, let's say, 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago during the heat of the day. What I see at my house, I've got a little bird bath at my house, and you often get birds bathing fairly early in the morning, actually. Let's say 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, they start bathing. And I guess that's, you just come out of your night, it's like getting up and having a shower. You've been, whatever. And you have a nice shower, and then you go, and I guess it's probably the same with them. But now they're actually more concerned about drinking and then getting out feeding. A lot of these birds are actually going into nesting, breeding season already. So they really don't want to spend too much time down here. But I like that question because feather maintenance is absolutely critical to birds. And that bathing is a very, very, very important part of feather maintenance. As well as grooming. We get some of these doves, if we're very lucky, we'll see some of the doves actually sunning themselves. They actually sit on the edge of the water and they lift their wings vertically. NASCAR has asked, where are the ducklings? You may recall that this is notice that this is a completely different dam. So those ducklings, as far as when we left them this morning, there were still 5, so they were fit, fat and healthy. But again, that question is quite fun because remember I mentioned there were 2 shell ducks here earlier, so well picked up. That was very, very astute of you. But these ducks have got quite a wide nesting season. And the ones that we saw with those ducklings are right kind of at the start, but it'll push through right through until March. So it doesn't necessarily mean because one pair is breeding that they're all breeding. I mean, the pair that was sitting here may only end up nesting now or in a month's time. So, but well picked up. That was good. And this lovely green color on the water, that is not pea soup. That is algae growing on the surface of the water, and ducklings will actually feed on that if they were here.
We have decided to do a quick little loop away from where we had that Impala carcass a bit earlier on. and just to see if we could find anything, give that leopard time to return to the carcass, if anything, to maybe to settle down and relax. And so we'll go and check there probably within the next 15, 20 minutes or so. But on the road, we've got quite a cool little track that I'd like to show you. And if you look over here, I've underlined it with my finger, and we've got a pretty prominent back pad and 4 toes over here. And if we look closely at the back pad, you'll see there's 3 lobes, so it can only be a cat. And the size, in comparison to my hand, means that it's a leopard track. So it's quite interesting because Gert and I drove this road this morning, which means that this leopard has walked somewhere in the region of between 8 and 9 o'clock, I'd say, along this road, and it was walking in the direction that we have come from. And so the chances of it being the leopard that we think that it's that made that Impala kill is quite low, just because of the distance. You know, she wouldn't have to cover that ground. It's probably about 2 kilometers away now, so it is quite far. So it's a different individual, which is quite interesting. So hopefully if we stick around, we might be able to see some spotted cat today. So to the internet audience, just so we have a closer look at them, it's quite nice to see if we can try and age these tracks and try and figure out exactly how we can age them. And this is quite a cool little thing, because here's the back pad, and we can tell it's the back pad because it's quite a big oval like that, whereas the front pad on a leopard tracks tends to be a little bit more round. So that's it over there. So that's the front foot, that's the back foot, which means that it was walking quite quickly. So the front foot landed, the back foot was taking a big stride, so it landed in front of the front foot. But on this front foot over here is a line like that you can see. I hope my shadow doesn't get in the way. But that's a bird track. And by the looks of it, it looks like it might be a Birchall starling, which is a daytime animal. So these tracks might be a bit earlier than we originally thought. Yeah, so just a little recap on this little tracking session that we've had. So we've determined that it's a leopard. For the internet viewers, we've determined the pace at which it was walking, and now we've figured out exactly, well, not exactly, but we have an idea of when this leopard walked past. And just to like I say, recap, we've got the foot over here with 3 lobes, meaning it's a cat, with the size, meaning it's a leopard track, and also it can help us sex it, so it's a female leopard that's walked past here. And then this one over here with the slightly rounder foot is the front foot, and this one over here with the slightly more oval foot is the back foot. And because the back foot is landing in front of the front foot, they are taking nice big strides, so walking quite quickly. And we've got a Birchall starling track that's gone on top of the front foot of the leopard. So it happened a little bit earlier than we originally thought, so maybe early on this morning.
So, away from the leopard tracking segment, which I think is really, really interesting actually. And so we're sitting with no animals here at the moment, and I'm not forecasting any immediate animal activity here. But yeah, so we're just going to enjoy sitting here, this beautiful scenery, and watch the birds come in and drink. Please be patient, your call will be answered. But how cool is this algae on the water? That is pretty, eh? Can you see it, David? And it just shows how productive these systems are. Even this little, what one would, you'd get you and you're like, oh, it's a muddy little pond. King Creation has asked, how can you tell which birds are male and female? I have a multitude of ways of answering that, but I'll answer it. So the standard way is you're looking at coloration. And your males tend to be more brightly colored than your females, but then you get others that aren't, like crimson-breasted sharks. Males and females are identical. Sometimes it's literally just a white speck on the wing which differentiates between male and female, like ant-eating chats. But generally your males are more brightly colored. These yellow canaries are a really, really, really good example, which we cannot see at the moment. Because that's the male yellow canary, but now we need the female. But you see that very bright yellow one? But then you go to your right, you got those two barbets. Go in there now. Okay, now those two acacia-pied barbets, there's no noticeable difference between males and females. So then you start looking at behavior. Which one is building the nest? Which one is incubating? Which one is chasing intruders? So there's a whole stack of ways of actually differentiating between male and female. The key thing is observation. And here's an impala. Okay, guys, we've just got an impala ram. We're just going to go very slowly, don't we, Shoaib? Watch us. Very slowly, catch your monkey. This just shows how well our hide is working. If we were sitting out in the open here, this animal would never come and drink like this. So it just shows you never, ever know what to expect. So good question on the birds. There's lots of ways of telling male and female. Oh man, can you go close there? Let's see if we can get a real close-up of him drinking. Look how beautiful that is. And that's a ram. That's a nice big ram. He's in his prime. So he's probably 6-7 years old. You may even get more coming down, I don't know. But you notice how different their behavior is to where our colleagues are working. We have no crocodiles here. But in areas where you get lots of crocodiles, you see they actually come in and they're actually leaning back from the water, like super tense, ready to bolt away from the water at the slightest sign of a croc. We don't have that problem here. And that's why they'll kind of stand to drink normally. But of course you always get the risk of other predation, lions, leopards, wild dogs, spotted hyena, and things like that. Philippus asked, would drinking the algae not be bad for the animals? No, not at all. It won't have any effect on them. You can get algal blooms, and but you're not going to have any problems in this area. So an algal bloom can actually take, if it exceeds, it's normally what they call eutrophication, so you get a huge amount of nutrients in. You get a massive amount of algae growing that dives off and sinks to the bottom, and it actually starts going anaerobic, takes all the oxygen out the water. Then you can get toxic conditions. But as you're seeing it here like this, absolutely no problem whatsoever.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, everybody. Where, again, very little has changed with these two lions. The male in the bottom right of your picture reshuffled slightly, and we were a bit obscured on the other side, but now you might be able to see that paw that we spoke about a little bit earlier. You can see Deep Sleep, that belly of his panting away, moving up and down there behind that log. His tail that he's also resting now as well, that was working overtime with the flies. And then those two paws which he's crossed at the back there quite elegantly. But besides the reshuffle, that always seems to happen at an ad break, or not when we're watching. They've been quite content where they are all afternoon. Again, it is still quite hot here, but I'm sure as it cools down, we might see them move around. Like the only reason why lions, or at least male lions, would leave a pride is because of individuals like this that you see in picture. If he has cubs, and I'm not sure if you've been following andBeyond Phinda for the last while, there are 2 lionesses with 5 little youngsters. If any of those are males, by the time they get mature enough, they will be competitions for their dad at some stage. So he, like we said earlier, at about 2 years old, will actually kick them out of their pride. But the females or the daughters that he has will grow up and remain within that pride. So there will always be the core group of females, but it's the males that constantly change. I'm hoping that he at some stage will open his eyes. Because you'll see as the light at the back there hits his mane, his eyes are very similar color. They've got such a piercing stare. If you are lucky enough to ever look at one of these males, or any male for that matter, in the eye, in light. 1 or 2 birds making a bit of a racket in the background. The rattling testicular going berserk. Down below, a little bit earlier on, myself and Craig spotted a wildebeest who is in much the same position as these lions. He too is lying down. So we'll stick it out here a little bit longer and see if anything changes.
So that Impala moved off. He had a good drink and moved off. And I like that question about the algae. Now, the algae shouldn't have any effect on them. But we've got a lot of bird activity. I'm so pleased with all these birds. You got wattle starlings, Cape turtle doves, laughing doves, yellow canary, red-eyed bulbuls, scaly feathered finches, Namakwa doves, black-throated canaries, acacia-pied barbets, tit babblers, what do you call chestnut-vented tit babblers that have come in. But the fact that Impala just arrived out of nowhere, we didn't even have an idea that it was around, and that just highlights that anything can arrive. It's really one of my favorite things to do in a game reserve is just sitting in a hide. A lot of these South African reserves and overseas reserves got beautiful hides, and they are super effective for game viewing. A hide offers some of the best game viewing you'll ever have anywhere in the world, even including driving around in a Game Reserve vehicle. I promise you, a hide is just knocks spots off that normally. It just takes a little bit of patience. Yeah, it's so good of you to have joined us. It's Jenna's saying amazing bird life, and I can't agree with you more, totally. But it's been really good having you all with us. Just go out there, in between these drives, when you join us again tomorrow, take time to go through your garden, look at a bird book, identify some plants, and join us. If you want to link in on the internet, you can come join us for the rest of the drive today. Good afternoon from another amazing day at Tswalu Kalahari Reserve. Old Davi on camera, and my name's Dylan. It is fantastic having you with us. It's just going to be a great afternoon on it. We're doing a lot of birding. We've got a fantastic amount of birds coming in. There's in fact, one that's just landed now. It's called a golden-breasted bunting. It's one of my favorite birds. You see where the yellow canary is there, David, straight behind it? Have a look at that beaut. So not the one in the front is a yellow canary, that one of the streaky head with the black and white with that bright orange. That's a golden-breasted bunting, and that's the male. What a beautiful bird. There's one further north up in Zim called the Cabanis bunting. Cabanis bunting, that's just got a slightly different stripe pattern on the head and one or two other small variations. But this is the only one that we get down here. But how beautiful is that? Man, oh man, that's beautiful. But very often these birds are incredibly well camouflaged on the back, very cryptic on the back, and very bright on the front. And that's kind of got a dual purpose, obviously. Especially for your males, they want to be, when they're advertising to other males, for territorial displays, they want to be seen very, very easily. But when they need to hide, they need to be able to sit quietly in a bush, and they'll often turn with their backs to a potential threat. To camouflage themselves better. A bird that does it exceptionally well is a bird called an arena trogon. We don't get them here, but our colleagues have them where they're working. They get them intermittently in some of the areas. But those birds are well known for actually turning their back and hiding. But their chest is scarlet. It's brilliant, brilliant red, almost crimson in fact. Whereas the back is a muted olivey green color. And very, very, very well camouflaged birds. Vicky has asked, is this yellow canary part of the north race or the southern race? I'll have to check that up for you. I'm going to go with the northern race, but I can double check that for you as well. Beautiful, beautiful afternoon out here. I don't actually see anything about a northern or a southern race. I stand to complete correction. And I'm looking in the Roberts. Yeah, it's actually got two different ones. It's not talking about, it doesn't talking about races, but I'll have to actually read through it in some depth here. I can check that out for you. It's a nice question. I dig questions like that. The big question is what difference does it make? What's the ecological pros and cons there?
Good afternoon, everybody, and a warm welcome to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. My name is Matt. Behind the camera, we've got Craig. And we are with the same lions that we were with this morning, the male and female that you see fast asleep behind us. We've left them in much the same position as they were this morning, as lions do. And if we zoom in on her, you'll see up to the top left of your picture, she's in a bit of a precarious position. She's just rolled over now. And it's often when they've got full bellies, they'll lie like that, just to give that stomach a bit of a breather. Actually quite amusing to see them do that. But for the majority of the afternoon, they've just been flat on their sides. It sticks out a little bit more now that her white belly is exposed. And like the sun catching that grass that you see in picture, much the same. And we were actually able to see her from quite a distance earlier on as we drove in, lying up on the hillside. But a lovely vantage point a little bit later when they do decide to move. You can see her eyes, no intentions of opening them just yet. Still quite hot out here. The wind is still pumping through, and they're both in what little patches of shade those guai trees behind them can provide for now. She flicking her ear quite a bit. The flies seem to be back, and that's often quite amusing, and so much so that it might even wake her up. If they persist for long enough, she might just swat at them or wake up to try and catch them with her mouth. We'll stick with them for now. I might just move on. There were reports of a couple of cheetah a little while earlier in hopefully a spot that we can find them. Alyssa, in this case, because this brother has his sibling somewhere out in the abyss of the reserve, there will be a brother for each. It could very well happen that two of them fall into estrus at the same time, especially if they're siblings or sisters, that happens. And the more dominant one will venture off with the female that is in estrus first, and then perhaps the second one would then go after or go away with the second, but it very seldom, or I've at least never seen that. This is obviously the more dominant brother. He would have to fight with his brother to see who the more dominant brother is, and that would mean he's got the mating rights then, and then he would walk away with a potential suitor like this female that you see belly up here in picture, quite content in that position. On the other side of the valley, if Craig pans up a little bit and then zooms in, you'll see a wildebeest that we spotted a little bit earlier, who almost like they're having a bit of a standoff. He was too like these lions, just lying flat. There he is. But it's almost as if he's seen these two now. And perhaps we'll head in the opposite direction.
So I checked up on that question about the races on the canary, the northern and the southern race. It doesn't make any mention of that, but it certainly makes mention of 4 different subspecies. And the ones that we get here would be part of the subspecies occurring right up through Namibia. So yeah, that's just interesting, which is quite cool. You know, that big group of birds that I was going to talk about before I started talking about something else, and then they flew away, which is very typical for something I would do. Those were wattled starlings. I think I've got a feeling we're going to get lions rocking up today. I don't know why. I have nothing to base that on. But it would be hellishly exciting to be sitting here at ground level with the pride of lions around us. Anushka has asked a great question as well. What is the smallest bird we get at Tswalu? That is called a Cape penduline tit. Cape penduline tit? What a name. And it is a tiny little bird. Some of you may recall we actually picked up this beautiful nest. It was an abandoned nest with a hole in the top that looked almost like felt or fleece. It looked almost like fleece. Then with that false entrance. That's the nest that those little birds build, and they are tiny. They're like 7.5, 8 centimeters in length. Tiny little birds. But then you got other little ones as well. You got the little warblers, and you got cisticolas and scaly feathered finches. Got a whole range of very, very small ones. But the Cape penduline tit is certainly the smallest one that we have here. And you must think how, with the adult is, let's say, 8 centimeters. You must think how small those eggs and chicks are. Yeah, pretty cool.
This is also incredibly cool. We have got Shidulu's daughter, Kara, here. We've been trying to find signal for about half an hour. Now we do, and we have the leopard. I'd love to claim I found her. I did not. She was found by Sabi, a guide at Simbambili has very kindly alerted us to the position of the leopard, and here we are. So many of you have seen her before, but normally in the company of her mother Shidulu, who Lauren was with earlier. I'm not sure if she still is. And I think this cat is extremely distinctive because she's got a kind of, it's not a scowl so much as her brows, her eyes are kind of half shut in disgust most of the time. I'm sure it's not disgust at all, but that's just what it looks like. So she's quite distinctive. I will also confess that I drove straight past her earlier on. Not quite straight past her, but if I'd looked very carefully, you probably would have seen her. We're going to sit here for a little while, see what she does.
So we've just decided to come back to this carcass, and we've been treated to this unbelievable scene. We actually were so worried because we were scanning in the bushes, we couldn't see the carcass anymore, and we drove a bit more forward, saw these drag marks crossing the river. And as we got here, we just heard this commotion in this tree, and this leopardess, I think, has just finally hoisted this carcass. And so there are the drag marks, and they are as fresh as anything. Going straight up, and there she is. You can see the Impala's legs dangling down, and so we actually missed the hoist. But the good thing is that she seems relaxed enough for us to at least watch her and try to figure out which leopard this is. I am still not sure. There's a chance that it could even be the young male leopard that we see around this area. Just looking, it's got a very, very pink nose. It doesn't look like it's satisfied, so it might try and shuffle the carcass around a little bit more. But I mean, it's just such a good comparison. If you look at it, that Impala probably weighs a little over half of what that leopard does, and it successfully dragged it across a river about 50 meters long and then hoisted it up about 2 meters. I think that tree is one that she selected quite nicely because it's growing almost straight out towards the river as opposed to being completely vertical, and that's probably why she decided to take it across the river and expend that energy, because it will be easier to climb. There we go. Oh, wow, it looks like it's a very fresh kill. Just looking at how the meat is still very blood red rather than that dark maroony color. So this could have even been from sometime this morning, not last night. Wow. It wants to go higher. Look at that strength. Wow. So, Catherine, the reason why leopards hoist kills like this is because they are strong enough, firstly, and they've got the ability to hoist it, but they're also within comparison to the other predators that we find, so lions and leopards and even wild dogs, they are smaller than them, which means that if they leave this carcass on the ground and an opportunistic hyena were to wander in and see this carcass on the ground, it would rush in. The leopard doesn't have the ability to defend it against the hyena, and then the leopard has to turn and run away from its meal that it's worked so hard for. So expending that energy to hoist it up the kill allows it to keep it there when other predators won't be able to climb. And so instead of being there instead of losing the kill to a hyena potentially, it's got it for at least 2 or 3 days.
And this particular leopard would love to have a bit of a kill. Apparently she did have one quite close by. I don't know if she still does. Or maybe she's going to make one. I'm just wondering if she isn't moving towards one. We'll just wait and see. She's not quite as confiding as her mother. She definitely put her head down between her legs as we arrived, indicating a certain level of suspicion with our motives. Njani? Mahlolo mangena Djuma.
No, still not afraid them.
Okay, are they there?
On the Makolo Satini.
Okay, all right. I'll go and check later.
They were heading towards your side.
Okay.
So tonight you're going to cross.
Cool. Thanks. I was just getting an update there from Roy, who works at Arathusa, and Roy was saying that the wild dogs are very close to the Djuma boundary, and so we might be lucky again this evening. Alright, I think we're going to have to move now. I don't know if we're going to have signal if we move though, so I'm going to wait until we go somewhere else before we move, and then we see if we can get some signal.
Yeah. So we've luckily just managed to identify which leopard this is, and it is the young male that we see around this area. And now that he's stashed his kill, he's decided to climb down and lie in the shade. And he's lying in that spot over there. So I'm actually going to reverse back. There seems to be a small window where we might be able to see his face nicely, and then I can point out some of the features as to why we know it's him. So there we go. And look at how much effort he's put in now. He is panting away, heavily breathing, and still quite alert. So this is a young male leopard that we see in this area, who is called the Makoti male. And he's just put in a whole lot of effort. But, I mean, all of that panting and all of that energy expended because he now has got an Impala carcass that he'll be able to keep for another day or another 2 or 3 days. I mean, just last week he was at an Impala carcass for 6 days. And so this means that our leopard viewing with it, at least in the next 3 or 4 days, is going to be really good. We'll swing past here on a daily basis to keep up with him and see what he's up to. And so how this carcass was found this afternoon is like I said, we had tracks of a leopard in this area this morning. The trackers came in, They found that Impala carcass, and we obviously went, didn't find it, came back a little bit later, and here we have him now, which is just the best.
We have a tree agama here. I think it's possibly just escaped us. Has it ran away, BK?
Yeah.
Do you know, it's the same one we had yesterday, which is...
Got it?
You got it. I can't see. Oh, yes, wow. All you can see in this view that we have here is just his hand and his head. I don't want to reposition the car right now because he's probably going to move. You see how camouflaged that tree agama is? It's incredible. An amazing reptile that we have out here. And I'm actually going to show you what the male looks like. So BK, if we can just look at this big picture here, this is the male, and look how, nope, that's a tortoise, terrapin. You see, this is the male right here, and it's got a bright blue head, so completely different from the female herself. The female is less brightly colored and more camouflage. So this is what we are looking at right now, is a female. I wonder if BK can find it again for you. I have completely lost sight of it with my own eyes. Have you lost it? Did not catch that name, but you're asking, what does the tree agama eat? And they are carnivorous, so they love insects. They have a very specialized tongue that darts out really, really quickly, and it's sticky, and they'll pick up all sorts of insects that are crawling on this tree itself. And because they blend in so well and they stay motionless, what that means is that sometimes the insects do not see them coming. Okay, so we're going to keep bumbling south and see what other amazing animals we can find.
Our leopard is now settled in the shade. She is very happy, apparently, because she's breathing heavily and closing her eyes. So I think that she probably ate something relatively recently. Now, we were talking this morning about the fact that these leopards, or how independent she was, and she's basically currently in another leopard's territory. She's in, or certainly on the border of the territory of Ngala, the leopardess, the one-eyed pirate leopardess, and so she's not going to be territorial yet, but she's completely independent of her mother. This is only my second meeting of her, or third meeting of her.
So this has just gotten so crazy. This male leopard, we noticed, didn't stop watching where that Impala carcass was coming, or where it came from and where he took it from. We used our binoculars, looked in the bushes where we saw that impala last, and there's another leopard. And so now this male's gotten up and he's heading straight towards it. There's that leopard. You can see its tail on the right-hand side of the bush there. Just there. So I think that he's just stolen this from this female leopard. That is crazy, and he's actually right in front of our vehicle. I think he's just sat down to try and make himself less conspicuous. And there's that other one. So it's just exactly where that impala carcass was. It's got its head down, it's sniffing, and I think it's just looking for scraps. And that's amazing. Oh, there she is. She's looking straight at us. Wow. Okay, so I think it's a female leopard that we've just seen over there. And she's going to be very irritated that she's lost her kill. But there's nothing she can do. Okay, this male leopard's up and walking straight towards her now. Straight towards her. He's following his own drag marks that he stole the carcass on. Look how he's just fixated on her. He's not looking around, he's just focused. That female leopard hasn't seen him yet. She'll hear him as soon as he goes into that grassy bank. She'll react. So I'm just going to stop talking and let's just watch this, because there could be some amazing action that's just about to unfold. She's gone. Where did she go? Is she up? Oh, more to the left. Okay. Oh, I think she saw him in the nick of time. So Vic, that's an interesting question. She might. This is quite interesting because both of these leopards are related. So that male leopard that's there is a young male, known as the Makoti male. His mother was called the black dam female, and she is the mother of that female. So this is called the Ngala female that we have here. And so they've both got the same mother, but they've got different fathers. So they know each other because they've spent time with each other before, but they're not friendly with one another. And she's watching where that Makoti male is. And so she might come and try and steal the carcass. But also, she has got a young cub that she's trying to protect. And if she gets into an unnecessary fight and injures herself, she'll lose the ability to protect her cub. And so she might just cut her losses and move away. But it'll be interesting to see. And it has been seen before. There was a time where she had a carcass, and a few of the guides actually managed to see this young male leopard climb up the tree and steal the carcass from her. And that was 6, 7, 8 months ago already. So he's grown bigger, probably a little bit more confident. And so I think it'll be quite a challenge for her to try and reclaim her prize. It's just so interesting. Now she's just lying down in the riverbed. Just crazy. And we've got a very uninterested spectator in the background. He's come down to drink. So there's that elephant in the riverbed too, and these leopards are still around. That young male now has gone to exactly where that female was, and it almost looked like he was scraping in an attempt to bury the remains of the kill there. But see, look, he's scraping with his back foot, trying to cover anything, so another predator might have difficulty smelling them, or smelling the carcass. If a hyena comes and smells that stomach content, it will try and follow exactly where the scent leads it. So covering it up hopefully just tries to mask the scent a bit. And there's the female. So she's there watching. I wouldn't be surprised if she saw this whole thing take place. I wouldn't be surprised if she was close by and saw this young male come in. The male saw the carcass and took it away. So she's probably got a good idea as to where the carcass might be, if she didn't see him taking it up the tree directly. So I'm surprised she hasn't gone back to the carcass. So Darcy, there's a good chance, and maybe that's why he or she doesn't want to go too far away from the area. So she's just watching to make sure that he's not going to cause damage to her cub. And I think that cub would be somewhere close by if the carcass has already been fed on. But it's a very skilled hider, so it will just find a spot where it can fit into, and it will just sit and wait. And then when the mother thinks that it's safe, it will go back into the area and just slowly but surely let out these very soft contact calls. So hopefully only the youngster will be able to hear it. And then she'll just try and get them away from the area. So this sighting has taken a very interesting turn of events, and I think we are going to play it out the whole afternoon, so I'm not going anywhere.
You got them? So we've got some beautiful little scaly feathered finches. It's those tiny looking little birds. There's a yellow canary sitting on the right hand side, but the rest of those are scaly feathered finches. And these are one of my favorite little birds out here. And they are adorable. One of the things that they do in winter, if it's very, very cold, they'll actually huddle together for warmth. And a number of species do that. You get those classic photographs of bee eaters sitting on a branch in a long row, those kind of things. But these little guys actually will actually huddle in groups, and they'll actually get into other birds' nests. And you can get 4, 5, 6 of them. These big sociable weaver nests, they even sometimes go in there. Beautiful little birds. And there's lots of dove activity now. Lots of Cape turtle doves drinking. Still a lot of activity on yellow canaries. Plenty of yellow canary activity. And this dam is actually very well known for pearl-spotted owls and gabar goshawks chasing birds around this. So I'm also hoping for something like that. If we sit here long enough, we'll probably get it right. Like if we sit here for a year or two, we'll probably get a goshawk attack at over. It's law of averages. Okay, there's your wattle starlings. They've just come down. There's all those kind of nondescript looking brownish birds with a very pale rump. You'll see when they fly, they've got a very, very pale rump. Those are the wattle starlings. Those are the ones we've actually seen the nest before. So they nest communally. So they don't make a single massive nest like social weavers, but you get pairs, and sometimes 2 or 3 or 4 pairs actually constructing one nest, but you can get hundreds of these nests together in a number of trees in close proximity. But all of these things, they're starting to breed under our noses, and we've seen that already with doves, the shelducks, all those kind of things. So we just need to be on the hunt a little bit better for them. But we will.
Hello everybody, welcome back to andBeyond.
So we've still got a lot of doves coming down. This time of day, as it's getting cooler, is becoming so good for large animals to start moving. And like I say, we could get anything coming down to this waterhole. You could get buffalo, you could get any number of the antelope species, but I know it sounds crazy, but we're really hoping for lions to come down there while we're sitting down there. We will be totally safe, well, at least one of us will be. So don't stress too much. But yes, if we can get lions coming down here, hey David, that would be a winner. But let's see. All the wattle starting. So someone was asking about birds bathing earlier. So you'll see a lot of these wattle starlings are coming down. Some of them are bathing. So they're coming down, they're drinking. But what is noticeable about these birds? Oh, leopard and elephant, go.
And so this leopard has just interrupted this elephant from a afternoon drink, and that elephant wasn't so happy about it. Look at him moving on the rocks there. He's standing up to an elephant. This is just the most amazing scene that I've ever seen, I think. See, that leopard is desperate for a drink, but that elephant doesn't want to let him drink. That's amazing, and that leopard just knows if he's on the rocks there, it's safe. There's no way the elephant could get up there. But let's see now that the elephant almost looks like it's settling down and drinking. Maybe it will slip down and have a drink. The Phoenix leopards are incredibly powerful. I don't really know if I can quantify it too well, but they're capable of dragging pretty much half of their own body weight up a vertical tree. And they can climb... There he goes again. Listen to the trumpet. I just can't believe that this leopard isn't reacting. I think in terms of power to weight ratio, they're one of the strongest predators in the whole of Africa. See, this is our case in point. This leopard is now getting cover to try and hunt the elephant. He's going to try and pounce on the back of it. No, I'm only joking. That would never happen. But I'm so amazed, because usually, I guess it's just because it's happy and confident that elephant's not going to do anything. I mean, no matter how threatening and how big and powerful that elephant looks, that leopard knows that it's safe on those rocks. And so instead of running away and getting chased further away from this elephant, he might as well just find a safe spot and just go and wait it out. If that elephant moves off, then all he needs to do is just drop down and have a quick drink at the waterhole. But I mean, this just is a case in point as to how confident this young male leopard is. In one afternoon, we've seen him steal a kill from a female leopard, and now we've seen him standing up to a big, powerful elephant bull. And this female leopard is still here, watching from a distance. She hasn't made a move towards the carcass. You see, that elephant, although it tries to pretend that it's not happy, if you look at some of the subtle body languages that it's giving off, so that tail stuck out and became erect, that's one way of knowing that it's slightly unhappy. And then those ears will stay open, and I can assure you that it's watching that leopard's every move. And if that leopard decides to drop down again, you'll see that elephant reacting one more time. Sugar Bits, I think you've read that leopard's mind. I think it's there just welcoming and congratulating that elephant for the World Elephant Day today. So well done. I didn't even think about that. See, every now and again that elephant stops, his ears go out, and he just picks up his trunk to smell. It looks like that leopard might move. Penelope, it might. I mean, if it squirts, see, he's dropping down. Look, here we go. there, it did. It did try to squirt water. But still, this leopard isn't giving up. How brave or how stupid do you have to be to ignore a charge like that? And he's literally drinking. That is amazing. I would never have thought that. I would have thought that that elephant would have chased that leopard away. What I've noticed in the last few minutes since this elephant has been chasing this leopard around, we'll see if we can get a side profile of its face again, because I'm fairly certain that it wasn't secreting any fluids from its temporal gland, so the gland just behind its eye. And now that it's under a stressful environment with this leopard and worrying about it, all of a sudden I could see this quite prominent secretion, which means that's a sign that it's stressed, and it's stressed immediately. Not stressed enough to give up on drinking, though. So, name the chances of a leopard taking down an elephant's carcass is very, very low. There is a recording, I do believe, of a very, very, very big male leopard who successfully killed an elephant calf. But that is like once in an absolute blue moon. It had to be a very big, powerful, confident leopard, and it would have been a very small elephant. You know, the circumstances there are so exceptional because, I mean, it's not the preferred leopard's prey, and usually an elephant calf would have 5-10 adults protecting it. And so I think it was a very unique situation that happened. But usually I would say no. It has happened before, but the chances of it happening are slim to none. And I wonder now, because now that elephant isn't reacting, it's almost given up on chasing that leopard. And I wonder if that elephant just saw that all the leopard wanted to do was have something to drink. Because that leopard hasn't moved, it's drinking a lot after that heavy drag across the river and the hoist up the tree. So it's quenching its thirst, which means that it's non-threatening at all to that elephant. Maybe that's why that elephant is tolerating it. It's still uncomfortable. It keeps smelling that leopard. So that trunk whips out every now and again to the left. And I'm sure if that leopard moves away from the water, then we might get another reaction. And just see how well, especially as that leopard is in the shadows, how well it just blends in. And that's out in the open. It's literally just using the color around it and the shade, and it's pretty effective in the way that it can blend in. Now imagine if it was sitting in long grass watching a herd of impala coming close by. I think those impalas would have a very hard time spotting that leopard. So this has just been an absolutely incredible moment to share with everyone, and I'm so happy we got to. The only thing that would make it better is if this female's cub arrived on the scene and make it 3 leopards and 1 elephant. So until then, we'll see you soon.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, everyone. From one cat to another, Eric and his leopard, to here on andBeyond Phinda with this cheetah mom and her 2 youngsters, who, as we speak, these 2 youngsters have started playing with one another. It's actually quite amusing to watch how they will swat each other. And mom very tentatively keeping a lookout. There's a herd of zebra out of picture to our right-hand side, which don't pose much of a threat to this mom at the moment, but she's just making sure the coast is clear. And a beautiful view as she looks over the western part of this reserve, with the mountains in the background. Look at the youngsters. Oh, a little bit of energy, a burst of energy between these 2 this afternoon. What is that one playing with? It looks like a rock that it's pawing at there on the ground. It is in fact the paws of its sibling. Naturally very curious at a young age, these 2 cheetah. They are between about 5 and 6 months old. You can still see that very long rough hair on the back of their necks. But I think the paws are of more interest to the youngster hiding behind mom at the moment. Pranav, for the exact reason, while mom is away out hunting to conceal themselves, you can imagine if the 2 of them lay flat in this long grass, with sort of very dry grass at the moment. A little bit further back you can see it's a little bit thicker, but that long hair of theirs actually helps them remain concealed while mom's out hunting, out of sight and out of mind for any potential danger. And then a little bit later on in life, at about 18 months old, you'll see they actually start growing out of that fur that you see behind. I'm not sure if you've ever seen newborn cheetah or really young cheetah under the age of about 3 months. They actually look like honey badgers, that very almost distinct black and white coat of theirs. But these 2 already, they've got those very distinct spots of theirs, and very curious. As mom keeps an eye out, they off to see and just explore parts of this reserve that they maybe otherwise haven't seen. Other ones found a bit of a chew toy on the left hand side that we having a closer look at. Help sharpen those teeth. but always just time for a bit of fun and games with these two siblings. With Mom being on the lookout, you never know. She obviously has to hunt quite regularly with these two growing children of hers. And if something does, there's also quite a large watching hole off to our right-hand side. Something like a herd of Impala or maybe Ngala come down to have one last drink of water this afternoon. She could potentially look to hunt. And at this age, those two playing off to the left will be of no help to Mom. Mom will give them a signal, they'll stay behind, not too far from her, and she'll set off. You can see a little bit of grooming going on there, maybe a big yawn, there we go. Big old stretch, so downward dog, or cat in her case. And maybe also just looking for a place to rest up this evening. She's just making sure, again, scanning every so often. There are no predators in the vicinity, and then she might find a spot nearby to sleep.
We've managed to catch up with our cat, and it wasn't that difficult because she's flat. Yes, we got space again at this sighting. So this is Shidulu, who we had earlier on, the Duchess of the West. Although really, to be perfectly honest with you, she's really the most dominant territorial female in this area now. Tandy no longer. Tandy's still definitely territorial, but her territory has shifted so much that she's more in Torchwood. And when it comes to Djuma, she's just extending into the sort of southeastern corner. I'm going to draw it all for you. And Tlalamba comes from the north, but really the rest of Djuma, Shidulu is taking up. She's, oh... She's pushing further and further in. We're now at the pump house where Hosanna used to sit. It's very, very far east for her. We found her at Treehouse Dam and she stalked the hyena cubs. My goodness, my heart stopped in my mouth. But for those of you who maybe don't know much about Shidulu, her father was Anderson, who sadly has passed away, and this was confirmed by Panthera, and her mother was the Ingrid Dam female. She's 6 years old, and I do think that her name is not adequate enough, but Shidulu means termite mound, because she loves sitting on top of termite mounds when she's awake. Angie M, I believe Shidulu, she's got one offspring at the moment called Kara, and Kara's now 1.5 years. She was born with a male litter mate, and sadly that cub got killed by Moya, who also gets called Nanga, I believe, but I know her as Moya, and that's another female leopardess who killed this cub. It was a very sad sighting. I saw some videos, and as far as I know, that's the only litter Shidulu's had. But if anyone has any other information, you can let me know. #WildEarth. Shidulu had 2, lost one, and now Kara is officially thriving over in the west. Now, it's very common for female leopards to give a portion or a section of their territory to their daughters once they reach independence. And why they do this, I will come back to shortly. Oh, you're still with me. Fantastic. So I'll tell you why. Why do they do this? Well, it makes a lot more sense biologically, although your daughter could become a competitor for you. Oh, she's awake. That when the daughter inherits the territory, they will share a territorial boundary. And it's a lot friendlier and a lot easier for a mother to share the territorial boundary with their daughter than it is for any unrelated females. That's worrying, an unrelated enemy. Whereas if it's your daughter, you don't want her to steal your food. You might get grumpy with her and you might snarl at her, but you know her and she is your bloodline. You raised her. So it's much better for a female to hand over a section of the territory to their daughter and then adjust accordingly. Territories are fluid. They're very dynamic, these boundaries, and right now, because there's a vacant sort of area on Djuma, Shidulu's filling it. She's pushing. She's trying to see how far east she can come until she meets resistance. And I think as she goes further east, she's going to meet the resistance of Tandy. She'll come across an area that's been recently scent marked by Tandy, and she'll know she can't go any further. So hopefully our busy bee here stays put before we have to bash through the bush after her.
Welcome back, everybody. This cheetah mother that we are with has just moved off to our left-hand side, and her youngsters are following suit in front of us. But have a look at this golden light that's catching them. If they happen to turn and look at us, the light that's beaming off their eyes is beautiful. Have a look at these two now, going at one another. Oopsie. And they're walking, making a sort of direct beeline straight towards Mom, who's got her head pricked up now. But we spoke about camouflage earlier with that long fur of theirs, and you'll see just how well those two youngsters blend into that long grass. We were actually quite lucky with where they were positioned not so long ago out in the open, and with Mom as well now where she is. And I think there's not much daylight left here for us. They'll sit and enjoy that view, and I think they'll spend the night here out in the open areas where they can at least see threats coming from a distance. But how amazing is that to watch this mom and her two youngsters like this? We really are spoiled this afternoon. Just the black tips of that youngster's ears that we can see as it walks through the grass, but as it lies down, I think it's going to disappear completely. There we go. Come on. No. I think Mom just towing them into line there. Robert, I'm not sure if they are the most playful of all the cats. In my opinion, I have seen them very playful, but with a lot of the youngsters of even lions and leopards, you'll find them, just because they're young and full of energy, to be very playful. We're quite lucky these two are still very young and very playful, so we get to see them like that. But all three of the cats, I'd say, are very playful at a really young age. Mom wasn't really having any of their playfulness earlier. She sort of battered the one into place, and that was the end of fun and games for the afternoon. You'll see Mom's still walking off into the distance, so I'm going to keep up with her and see where she ends up, but I can't imagine her to go too far with the light fading as it is. You'll see it's sort of golden hour now here, and in this long grass they might just disappear. I don't really want to put too much pressure on them this evening. If there are other predators in the vicinity, it gives them, or at least her, a chance to see them from a distance and then get away. But I'm going to stick with them for now and see where they end up. You can just barely see Mom's head there sticking up over that long grass. Might actually, just for now, just keep my distance, because I actually can't see the two youngsters in this long grass. Gives them a chance to keep up with Mom. Sometimes they lag a bit behind, try and catch their breath before they set off again. But I'll see where they end up this afternoon.
So things here have remained as crazy as when we last had you. This leopard, I wonder if you'll be able to spot it. It's in frame. See if you can spot it quickly. We'll give you 5 seconds before we tell you what it is. But look at that elephant and see how far he's had to dig for that water because he's down on his knees or his wrists, I guess. Still getting something to drink, and usually they might have, if they're in the water, they'll drink something and they can slurp up 10 liters at a time, whereas now things are going a bit slower. Okay, so we've given everyone a chance to see the leopard. Now we'll show you exactly where it is. You might just see it moving now, and there he is. So it looks like he's had a drink, he's had a rest, and now he's very reluctantly moving away from this elephant. I think this elephant is going to walk away with a massively bruised ego. He's not going to be telling anyone about this. But now, so just so you know what's happening, is this male leopard is walking directly towards where the female is. And so we could get a male and a female interaction. You see, he's watching. And where is that female? Has she gone? No, she's there. But she is just trying to lay low. So she, listen. It's almost like he's trying to, he is so brave. He's now essentially marking his territory, or trying to. And now he's on the same level, so maybe about 60 meters away from this female leopard, walking straight towards her. Just look how beautiful the light is too. He's just about to go into the shadows. This female leopard has got her head down still. So either very... Oh no, she's just reacted now. Let's see what happens. So the last time we know that these two met, there was quite a big fight that happened. This female's already looking submissive though, so she has got her head down, she's looking, not trying to make eye contact. You might just see her in the frame. So where he is, if you follow his line towards where the elephant dung is, so that's her. There we go. This is just incredible. Look, snarling. I think he also may have laid down because I can't see him anymore, and I can just see his head. So zoom in there, Gat, and just pan right. Go more right. You'll just see his head popping up over the bank. Somewhere there. There's his ears. So there he is. And that female's just to the right. There she is. Look how close they are. And see, she does not want anything to do with him. She's sniffing and snarling. And rightly so. He's literally just stolen her food for the next 2 or 3 days. See, so these two must be in this constant interaction, just because they hang around and they live so close to one another. And so they must, she must have known this young male from when he was a cub and still moving around with his mother. Because we would often see her and her mother together, also quite hostile towards one another. But I'm sure she knows exactly who he is. But still, if you look at the size of her, although he is technically family, he's a threat, and he's a competitor for resources, for food, for water. And so, she's not big enough to hunt things that she can catch that would provide for both of them. And that's one of the reasons why leopards are so solitary. So you'll only ever see them together if they're mating, usually, or if a female's got her cub like she does. So this is why this is so unusual. It's so interesting because now he's settled down, but he walked straight towards her, and now there's almost a standoff going off. So I think things might peter down and hopefully relax a little bit.
That really does sound like an utterly fascinating sighting. We are having a very much more relaxed sighting, but no less beautiful, with young Kara, who has now finally decided that the heat has dissipated sufficiently for her to place her face in the sun. It won't be for long that it's in the sun because, well, the sun's going down. Oh, look at the light on her eyes, isn't that beautiful? Absolute bliss she's in, having her little snooze. Look at that little white, that little white stripe above her nose. HB, where we are now, it's more likely that Nsele will chase Kara out of this area. I don't think that her mother would. Simply because it's not... I don't actually really understand her mother's territory, but I think she's too far west for her mother's territory. So I would say that Nsele is the leopardess who would chase her out of this area. Shidulu should try and contract her territory sufficiently for Kara to fit in between her and another leopard. But what's interesting about Shidulu is that she does not live in a territory next to her mother's, and she basically replaced another leopard called Shadow, who was Tandi's sister. And we don't know if she actually killed her and took her territory, or if she just arrived and found that territory vacant. All right. Ready, Ruby? Female leopard scent marked because they are territorial, and they're not always territorial. I'm going to suggest we leave this leopard now because I've just heard that the wild dogs have crossed into Djuma, and I know that you have got 2 other leopards on offer, and so we're going to leave beautiful Kara resting here and go across and see if we can find those dogs.
So we've had some fantastically interesting stuff here. While our colleagues have been seeing leopards and elephants and wild dogs, we've had some algae. No, I'm just kidding, but we have had algae, don't worry. But I just wanted to tell you a little bit about this landscape that we're in here. And contrary to popular belief, these mountains are not 6,000 years old. They are actually very accurately and scientifically dated to 1.6 billion years old. Yes, and that was not a mistake I made, that was billion years. So, and if you want to look it up, you're welcome to. It's called the Olifantshoek Supergroup, or they form part of the Olifant Supergroup. This is a massive, massive structure running through this area. Quick link, You got a leopard. Go there. I'll tell you about geology later. Bye.
Just look at what we're experiencing now. So this young male leopard's walked past the female and is trying to display his dominance by scent marking. And this female, I'm surprised, she hasn't reacted. She stood her ground and she's been snarling. Watch her. And this is quite amazing because we consider him a small leopard, especially for a male. And you can see he's already bigger than the female. And it's amazing. This is exactly how he's been acting. So he's been very nonchalant. He's been looking around, pretending like nothing's happening. And this female has not stopped being hostile towards him, snarling and hissing. It's just so interesting. And if you look at his stomach, I mean, it doesn't even look like he's hungry and he needs something to eat. And so him stashing that carcass was just because he could. So Tim, it will eventually, but these leopards will finish it by then. So, I mean, they'll. I'm just sorry, I'm reversing back because there's an elephant who wants to just cross our path. So I'll give him a bit more space and then I'll get back to that question, Tim. Oh, so basically, that they would probably happily look at, there's that elephant in view, and then we've got those two leopards there. So Tim, usually a Impala carcass doesn't really last a leopard long enough for it to become ransomed. So if they do stash something, it won't be for a long period. But usually they finish that carcass. I mean, if it's something small like a grey duiker, they could finish that carcass. See, now this male just wants to try and assert his own dominance after being chased around by a leopard. It's like, yeah, leopard, but can you do this? And I doubt the leopard can. So there he is, and then there's the leopard in the distance. So once this male elephant crosses and moves away from us, we might try and just get a closer view of these leopards again. We were saying, the Gert and I was saying, it's actually quite interesting to see them from a slightly further distance away. With leopards, you usually see them right up close because you need to, otherwise you won't see them through the bushes. So to see them within the environment is quite unique. Like, all I'm waiting for is that little cub to pop up and for us to see it. Oh, it looks like this young male leopard now is starting to lose interest, and he's walking back across the river, more than likely to go and sit next to that carcass.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family. WildEarth relies on
I'm so impressed with these sightings that our colleagues have been having. It is absolutely mind-blowing. But we live in hope down here on the semi-arid side of the country. But we'll get something. Don't fear. But as I was saying, but these mountains are incredibly ancient. And what you're seeing here, these they actually are fold mountains. And they're incredibly old. But it's by far not the oldest rock structures that we have on Tswalu. The oldest ones that we've got are the Dolomites, and you're going back about 2 billion years there, which is a little bit older than 6,000 years, but not by much. So what we're seeing, this landscape has been weathering to where we are now for a very, very, very long time. And that is one thing that never ceases to amaze me. David and I are sitting at this little waterhole on this afternoon. I don't even know what day of the week it is at the moment. I think it's Wednesday. And all you are sitting at home, watching this on live screening. Our colleagues are seeing this amazing stuff. And yet we are all just an absolute point in time, a single point on a graph that spans an infinite amount of time. And it's just, for me, that is just something that I can't get my head around. And yet it is at the same time so beautiful and so magnificent to realize that we are actually privileged and incredible. I mean, just think of the odds, the chances of you even being alive to be viewing this. And I'm not talking about whether whatever illnesses or whatever. I'm just talking about the odds of you as a human existing at this point in time. I'm getting all philosophical here, but it is pretty amazing. And every single one of these organisms that we're looking at, that leopard that we're looking at in Ngala, the lineage of that leopard, the challenges that its parents faced, that its parents, and so on, like down through the ages.
Welcome back to andBeyond Pin, everyone. I'm sorry we lost Dylan's feed, but on the other end we've got this cheetah mom who's found the perfect vantage point to appreciate the sunset. We, on the other side of her, get to appreciate her and her youngster in this fallen over marula tree and watching that sunset over the Limbombos in the background. We've honestly been so spoiled this afternoon getting to watch this mom and her 2 youngsters playing, moving about from spot to spot, and then eventually now to climb that tree, and just the one youngster is with her behind her in picture. The other one I think has lost interest in the jungle gym and is lying just below mom, where you can see where mom's looking now. But what an incredible afternoon, and what an incredible end to such an amazing day out here with these 3 cheetah. We've honestly been super spoiled. She, like I said earlier, is just using that tree to her advantage, making sure the coast is clear, and I think this open area is where she's going to rest up tonight. Very, very alert, and that's the sort of body language that the youngsters pick up on. You can see almost looks like she's going to head down now, looking for her best point of exit from that tree that she's on now. Farmer lions are one of the other predators that cheetah have to worry about, but it is in fact all of the other cats, and even hyenas, things like hyenas, this cheetah mom will have to be very wary of, because her youngsters are at the age where they're still very vulnerable and very dependent on her. She obviously has to be on the lookout for literally everything. Even, unwanted things like a herd of zebra or wildebeest, if they happen to find her, could do some serious damage, as well as something like a herd of buffalo. So, yeah, not just lions. She's got it out for her the entire time. She has to raise these youngsters till about 2 years old. Oof. I'm not sure if you can see that. Bottom left of your picture is one of the youngsters sizing up that marula tree that's still standing, but it looked like it just gave it a bit of a a claw sharpening and is now returning back to mom, who I can imagine will also make her way down from there sometime soon. The last little bit of the sun also setting over the mountains behind her. You can see mom facing the west and appreciating that as we are, and I'm sure you are at home as well watching this. Not sure if you can hear the guinea fowl behind us, the helmeted guinea fowl behind us. They went absolutely ballistic just now. Caught sight of this cheetah and let the entire vicinity know that there was a predator about. One of the youngsters, you might not be able to see it, but again, trying to climb that tree that's still standing in the background. You can just hear those sharp claws of theirs that keep scratching against that bark. And those naughty little faces below the branch that mom's on as well. They look like they're very guilty of doing something that they shouldn't be. As soon as that sun sets, that temperature starts to drop. One of the youngsters back up on the log, just to the left-hand side of mom. And I think too, just appreciating the view. A little bit further out of picture on the left-hand side is a herd of zebra and wildebeest, who have been grazing for the most part of the afternoon. Not particularly worried about these three, just enjoying the view this afternoon. But you might, look up in the background now. That tree behind mom is one of the youngsters has just taken a leap of faith and managed to find itself in the V of that tree. But I'm going to stick around and see what the three of them get up to.
We've just come across a huge herd of hyenas. They've obviously stolen the kill from the wild dogs. It's a freshly killed impala. Dogs are nowhere to be seen. I can hear a vehicle off to the west, but I can't get hold of them. So now the Djuma clan has devoured whatever it was that the poor old dogs caught for themselves to feed their babies. Absolutely astounding stuff. Just amazing. I was herring along the road and Theo said, "Oh, there are 3 hyenas over there." And I said, "What?" Because I knew if there were 3 of them around at this time of the day, chances were there goes the Impala. Well done, Theo. There we go. Now, where are the dogs? I can smell the dogs, you know. One past. Absolutely wonderful to see. Well, not for the Impala. It was an Impala born in November last year, almost made it to its first year, but one of the 50% that didn't quite get there. There's one left in front of us, and then I think we'll just have a quick look here, and then we'll probably move on and see if we can't find the dogs. Ian, a wild dog weighs around 25 kilos. A big hyena can weigh up to 70 kilos. So there's a massive size difference. This is the one coming to say hello. Wondering if we might deposit another scrap or so. Go, Lex. We've just come across some hyenas that have clearly stolen something that's just been killed. They're on Impala Plains, just south of Sandy Patch. I would check quarantine. Listen to them going. Their tails up. Another hyena coming in. That's Ribbon. As far as I can tell. Good old Ribsy, matriarch of the Djuma clan. Sorry about all the antennas and everything, but we just can't move every time the hyenas do. Ooh. Let's move. I think she's after a dog. Let's move it up here. She's heard something else being killed, I think. She's gone gunning straight through there into these clearings. Just go straight round. I don't think we should blast in there after her. Can be a bit frenetic when we're looking for dogs because things happen very quickly. So while I'm staring for the dogs, I could easily hit a bump and lose poor old Theo from off the back of the car. She went running off into here. Let's switch off and listen. Can't hear anything. Ooh, beautiful view of the sunrise there. Gorgeous sunset. Let's have a quick look there while we listen. What did she say? Go. Beautiful. God, that's really lovely, isn't it? After the horror of the Impala kill. Okay, I think we should probably carry on, try and find the dogs. Let's leave the sunset. In the meantime, yeah, let's just head down through here and we'll see what we can find.
Cool, no? We just repositioned slightly, and the reason being is it's such a cool visual. He's now moving away. So just see that female leopard in the background, and he's now definitely losing interest and focusing back towards the carcass. And so he got up, he moved towards the female. not that interested in drinking yet. So he moved towards the female, and there was a very brief interaction, but nothing too hectic, nothing too scary, and then they sort of lay down next to one another again. He got up, started scratching around with his back legs, and then he just now moving off. So in Ninamu, it's very rare to see leopard siblings interact like this. You know, they technically are siblings, but they're not from the same litter. So this female in picture now is a lot older than what this young male is. And usually by this age, if this male hadn't already been chased away by the mother, he would have probably been pushed off by a dominant male in this area. And so he technically shouldn't still be around. You know, he should have been dispersed by older, stronger males. But because we haven't really been seeing them, we actually were talking about it between ourselves and the trackers this morning. We were saying that the dominant male, so the one who mated with her and the father of this young male, hasn't been seen for probably close to a month now. And so there's a chance that he might have moved away or got chased or got killed or injured, which means that there's this massive, beautiful open area for the taking. And this young male, with the way that he's behaving, seems like he might be one of the first contenders into the area. The chances of him making it and keeping his territory are quite slim, just because he'll be out-muscled by a much stronger, powerful male. Okay.
Wild dog here on Impala Road, just south of Sandy Patch. Animal is static. We've got another dog! They're making a habit of arriving at this time of the day. It's just so great. I'm afraid I don't know how long the sighting is going to last, because this is quite clear here, but it turns very thick, very fast towards the west. Animal mobile highly to the west. I would come on to Triple M. So I think what this thing was doing was coming back towards where it heard the hyenas yelling, and I suspect this one has possibly lost the rest of the pack. And we've now lost it. Another hyena. Gosh, it's all happening. What a drive. 78 leopards, 46 hyenas, 1 wild dog. So there was a hyena in there. I'm not going to follow up on that. We're going to follow up and see if we can find the dog. The painted wolf. Where is it? Okay, Theo's seen it. It's round over there. Okay, let's go over this way. In this direction. Okay, we'll go onto the road here. There's another one there. Stations on power lines now, mobile west. And there we go. Come on, come this way. Theo's going to be exhausted after this drive. He's flinging himself around like an acrobat. Hello, hound. Joy, because hyenas just don't really hunt at this time of the day, and there were too many wild dogs tracks around the area. So that's why I'm assuming that the dogs killed the impala. Yeah. Oh. I think that dog's just seen the hyena. Oh, and there's the hyena straight in front of us. It's absolute mayhem out here. And let's go. Ooh. We just have to. I mean, this creature is a magnificent animal, a warrior, second to none. just gave us a little burp. Not sure if you managed to hear that. All right, let's carry on. I think we must try and get onto the road to the west of us, because we won't find a dog in these thickets, but at least we managed to see it. Great stuff. Legs come in.
Yes, while everyone's been going after these incredible sightings, you've missed the most exciting thing on this side. This algae has been multiplying. It was phenomenal. You should have seen it. No, it's actually been a very peaceful, calm afternoon here, and I'm just absolutely astounded listening in on what our colleagues have been seeing. I mean, that is Africa at its absolute best, and I couldn't be more pleased that they're being able to show you guys those kind of things. So David and I, we've really just been enjoying some, I'd say, low-key birding. We haven't had produced any spectacular sightings yet, but it is certainly very peaceful and calming, if that's what you're after. And the other thing is, those mountains are now fractionally older than they were when you were with us last time. I'm still holding thumbs for something else to come out. We actually did. We had 2 Kori bustards. For those of you who enjoy birds, it's the heaviest flying bird in the world. Well, the Asian bustard, actually, king bustard from Asia, actually takes the actual record for that. But on average, Kori bustards are the heaviest flying birds, and there were actually 2 of them that arrived here at the water. They came walking the distance. They just walked past and they took off and flew away. So there's a little bit of life on the wicket. It's not entirely bleak, but I'm still hoping for a pride of lions to amble down, or 2 males would be good. 1 male would be good, or a leopard, even a caracal. Hell, I'll settle for a squirrel or a rabbit. But it is really beautiful. I'm just kind of like tongue in cheek there, but this is one of the most peaceful places on the planet, and at the same time also one of the most dramatic at different times of the year. You know, you get these incredible dust devils in October, November, then you get these massive lightning storms, and because you normally got this huge field of view, like 360 degrees around you, the thunderstorm displays out here are just really something to behold. You know, if you're into storm chasing, this is a good place to be. But that is all still in the not too distant future. And for now, we'll just bide our time at this waterhole and enjoy a very, very, very relaxing afternoon out here. But these things can go from mild to wild literally in seconds. We're actually sitting very, very obscured in this little blind here. We've got a rising mound of sand behind us to the right, so our field of view is actually extremely limited. I mean, the furthest that you can see is where David's pointing the camera now. The rest of it, we're limited to about 15 meter at the most visibility, so anything could approach us from any direction here, you know, any other big game. So let's hold thumbs.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family.
We've gone from wild to mild, I would say, because this leopard now has moved his way back up towards the tree where the carcass is, and it looks like he's now just taking some time to rest. And it will be interesting to see what this female decides to do. You know, we've been speculating that the cub might be somewhere close by. So, you know, there's a chance of her hanging around and waiting for this male to move off. She might dart up there and try and retake the carcass, but I don't think she's going to risk it. So she might end up just cutting her losses and moving on for the night. And this is the time where they like to get active. These females really like to hunt during the night time. And so hopefully she manages to catch something tonight. It does seem, however, that a lot of the carcass in the front and on the ribs has been eaten. So they've got their fair share. So we'll see, we'll give it 5 more minutes. If nothing wild happens, we might continue on with our drive.
No, God. Well, that was a quick sighting. We just had 2 warthogs that came in to drink and they've just trotted off. So that was our sum total of excitement for this afternoon. I hope you enjoyed that tail end. I just try to see the humour in all of this. Because I think someone hasn't... Yes, so someone asked, is it very exciting being in each other's company? I asked David if I can rest my head on his shoulder earlier and he said no. And then it became really awkward after that. So I'm just kidding. But yeah, sorry, we are just, it's been a very quiet afternoon out here. And the thing is, I'm lucky because I enjoy everything. So I enjoy plants, I enjoy scenery, I enjoy geology, I enjoy reflections, I enjoy philosophy, anything, pick a thing, I enjoy it except for mathematics. I'm useless at it. But it's just beautiful. The thing is, the more you get into the more diverse fields, or the diverse number of fields, the more you start enjoying the outdoors. And the key thing there for me, it's not about the wattle starling or the Cape turtle dove. It's about the system, the entire system, which includes the geology, because those rocks are weathering as we're sitting here. What does that weathering mean? It means they're putting more nutrients in here, it's creating little microhabitats, microclimates, all that kind of stuff. And then that translates into vegetation, which translates into insects, and translates into mammals, reptiles, birds, you name it. So it's about system ecology. And if you can start thinking like that, these environments take on a whole new meaning regardless if you're not seeing big animals or not. And it's really exciting.
We've got the rest of the pack here with the little baby puppies. I'm just going to call it in on the radio. Lex, I don't know if you copied that, all on Triple M just south of power lines. This is so special. We're just going to sit right here and enjoy them. Oh, wow. They're so tired. Look at the little things. They're quite nervy. Now that one in front we know very well because it's missing that side of its lip. There we go. It's the most terrifying looking painted wolf you'll ever see in your life. Isn't that special? Oh, look at the little Mickey Mouse ears. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, at least 10. Paula, they don't go very far with these puppies. They tend to move, I'd say, maybe a mile a day, 2 kilometers a day, and then they leave the puppies in a relatively secure location. They'll stay with them for the day, and then they hunt later in the evening. So they killed that impala. They must have eaten some of it, because some of them are very bloody about the face, and then brought it back and fetched the pups. The pups were close by here, just to the left-hand side of your screen. So we're on our main western boundary now. I don't think all the adults are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think there are 8 or 9 adults in this pack. What's your DB on? Okay. When you need to go to IR, just let me know. We might have to go to infrared sometime soon. Oh, look at the little ones. I think they've seen a hyena. The adults will dispatch one hyena, no problem. Oh, those little things are too much. No, they may be actually, yeah, it's a hyena. There it goes. There we are. The dogs are after the hyena. If they catch it, we'll hear. I don't think they'll catch it. I think let's stay here, because the more we move around, the more the potential that we'll disturb these little things. Oh, surely they won't settle in the open like this tonight. I hope they go and find a nice kind of a sheltered area. Died monkey? No, the pups probably won't be able to outrun an adult hyena at this stage of their lives. They might get close, but that's why the adults didn't mess around. As soon as they saw the hyena, they went for it. It's also why they hunt as it gets dark and as it gets light. They eat and they get back to the pups as quickly as possible so they can look after them. Because obviously without the adults, the puppies are very vulnerable. And they do leave a nurse or an au pair with them. But one wild dog can't defend 12 puppies who are not in a den from an attack by even a big hyena, or certainly not from lions. Even a small hyena, they'll struggle. But you can see that that hyena did not muck around. Once it realized it had been spotted, it was gone. Okay, we're going to go into infrared now. In 5, 4, 3, 2, The next task, of course, is to catch them in the early morning so we can have some real time with them. We've got the other 2 adults that came out from chasing the hyena. And the hyena has now disappeared. No, Taylor, it's very unlikely that wild dogs would eat a hyena if given the chance. They are not known for eating other carnivores. I'm sure they have, from time to time, but they're not known for it. And there's just a bit of movement in front here, Theo. Let's have a look at the pups again. And they're also not scavengers. They will not scavenge unless it's incredibly fresh. And so my answer is no, they wouldn't.
So this male now is just completely asleep. He's found himself a very comfortable spot on that tree, and he's just panting away after quite an action-packed afternoon. I mean, not only the stealing of the carcass, but the elephant interaction we witnessed, as well as him coming back and pestering that female. So after all of that energy expended, I'm sure he's just going to try and rest up until eventually, by maybe a few hours into the night, once it's nice and cool, he'll move up towards the carcass and start feeding on it. So the female hasn't moved. She's in exactly the same spot. She's on the opposite side of the river, just every now and again picking her head up, looking towards where this male is, and dropping her head back down again. It's now that quiet time where most of the birds that are active during the daytime are resting up, and it's almost completely silent. There's a few fork-tailed drongos that are calling. I can hear an African scops owl calling in the distance. Apart from that, there's no other noise. Nice to spend a few moments just peacefully watching a sleepy cat after all of the action we've had with this sighting here at Djuma with James. It's all been one crazy afternoon. Gert and I were saying that it's probably time to retire. Or at least I'm going to retire. So whilst I get ready to retire and go pack my bags, because I can't show you anything more, we'll sit here and watch this leopard for one last time.
Well, yes, what a day it's been. Look at this. The little pups have now been begging for food from the adults. 2 or 3 of them regurgitated a little lump of half-digested meat, yum yum, which the pups gratefully received, and now they're having a little play. I think that the area they've chosen to be in is bizarre. I don't think it's a clever area to be in, because it's very open, and these roads are used by other big predators in the same way that we use them. They're a convenient, easy way for the animals to move. Vic, they're massively vulnerable at this stage of their lives, probably almost more so than at any other stage of their lives, because they've just left the den. And because they've just left the den, there is nothing to protect them if they are set upon by a big clan of hyenas, or, worst of all, a pride of lions. Beastly hyena, and I use that term from the perspective of the wild dogs, not my own, before anybody shouts at me, is just behind us still. Don't try and worry about him, Theo. But that's why the adults are still looking a little skittish this side. Oh, look at them playing. This is just priceless stuff. In case you're wondering, we don't have any artificial light on them. It's just infrared. No, Jojo, the pups have not been vaccinated against anything. In order to vaccinate them, you'd have to dart them and put them to sleep, which would obviously be massively traumatic. You'd have to dart actually and put to sleep the entire pack, all of the adults. And that's just not feasible. You'd lose far more than you gained by doing that. Yeah, I can see the other beastly hyena coming up. You. What's that? Is that a dog? Yeah, no, it's a dog, never mind. Far right. It's a dog on guard. I thought maybe it was a leopard, but it isn't. A leopard is also a danger to these puppies, you know. Male leopard, young male leopard especially, would come in here, grab one and run up a tree. And now they're just having the best time. Totally carefree. Oblivious to the dangers of making noise and being active at this time of the day. Just like any young mammal, really. And just the cricket starting to call now, and that's all lovely sounds. And the rustling of the two adults just doing a little patrol around the side, making sure that the pups are okay. Well, what a drive it has been. 4 leopards, one of them fighting with an elephant, wild dogs, Cape Penduline tits, was it, up at Tswalu, which is marvellous, and some great questions and comments from all of you. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow again at 6 o'clock. Until then, bye-bye.
It could be that the dogs are tackling it. Yeah.